When you talk about mannerisms of Romanians, I think a lot of times of these old Romanian guys standing outside of their houses and their shirt would be up over their belly and they'd be talking to you. It was one of my favorite things to go and talk to those guys that had their shirt over their belly. There were also some traditions or some ideas of things like curent, and it was similar to like wind coming through your house and causing you to be sick. We have semi-similar things here in America, but not exactly like curent. Some of the other things is at Easter, you would say Christos a înviat, adevărat a înviat, which that just means Christ is risen, and you would say, yes, he is risen. And that was a way to greet people, and I loved that because their culture was so Christ-centered. Even if a lot of people nowadays don't believe in Christ, a lot of people do, but their culture was so Christ-centered, and I loved saying that to people. It was one of the greatest things on every Easter to get to talk to people like that. Christmas time, they did one of my favorite meals. My wife and I still make this meal today. It's called sarmale. Sarmale is basically cabbage rolls. You throw some meat in it, usually pork and rice. We throw onions in ours. We like onions in ours now, but you roll that up and you make these little cabbage rolls. They also did ardei and pluts, which is stuffed peppers. I love stuffed peppers. We have them here in America, but they were so much better in Romania. I don't even know why, but they were just so much better in Romania. So those were some things that came around the holidays. In Oradea, my city that I was there for about a year, they had a clock tower in the middle of their city, kind of next to their town hall. And every hour on the hour, it would go off. And during Christmas time, it would sing a Christmas song on it. So I loved hearing that Christmas song and seeing that culture come out in Oradea. So some of the things that I love about Romanians is a lot of people were very hardworking. A lot of people were going out, doing a lot of jobs, doing a lot of things to try to provide for their family. That was one of the biggest things that first stuck out to me when I got to Romania. Another thing, as I got more comfortable speaking Romanian, getting into the language of speaking Romanian, was joking around with people. A lot of people had an amazing sense of humor. They were always laughing, always joking around with me. That was probably after my whole time of being in Romania, my favorite thing about Romanians. Another thing that I loved is Romanians and Moldovans alike were so giving. Each one, whenever I went over to their house, was offering me something, whether it was bread, whether it was water. Even in the worst circumstances that I went to, somebody was offering me something when I went to their house. So it was amazing how giving and how polite these Romanians were. I loved the Romanians. I think the world of Romanians. I think they're the greatest people in the world. If I could raise my kids in a Romanian culture, I 100% would, just because it teaches you a lot of great values and a lot of great things about life that sometimes we aren't taught here in America. So I love the Romanian culture, and I love what Romanians are about. The major differences between the US and Romania are basically transportation. Everyone in America takes a car. A lot of people take cars in Romania, but a lot of people also take public transport. The food is definitely different. In America, we have a huge blending of cultures, and we have so many different fast foods that you can go out and eat, and we do have hamburgers and other things that are more native, where in Romania it was more the native Romanians, and what they ate was kind of the food you got. So it was incredible to see that contrast. I also think personalities are different. People in Romania are more blunt and straightforward and will tell you how they feel, which I personally felt very good with. I loved that. But here in America, a lot of people are more beat around the bush, compliment you, tell you things that you may want to hear, but they don't always feel in themselves is true. So I loved that Romanians were very direct, and those are some of the biggest differences I can think of between the Romanian culture and the American culture. The craziest foods I ate, there was something called piftie. It's kind of like a pig's fat gelatin with some mixed meats in it every once in a while. And that was definitely interesting, wasn't my favorite, but there was something I ate one time. I don't know if it's a traditional food or if it was just served at this restaurant that I went to in Piatra Neamț. It was pig's brain. So I had pig's brain in Romania. First time I had ever even thought of having some sort of brain, but it was an interesting texture, but it tasted really good. So I was happy about that. Some of the other foods, a lot of the restaurants when we went out, they were like pizza oriented. So a lot of people had gone and lived in Italy or other places, and they came back and they brought that food back. So there was pizza a lot of times, shawarma, which is kind of like the Greek gyro, but it's just a little bit better in my opinion. I like shawarma better. The way they cut it off the spit was so fun to watch, so delicious. Papanash is one of the best desserts in Romania. It's kind of like I don't even know, like a donut ball, cake ball with like raspberry topping and sour cream on it. It sounds kind of interesting, but in Romania, their sour cream's a little bit different. The way they make it is so incredible. One of the best desserts I've ever had in my life. During Easter, they crack eggs on top of each other, and it's just a fun little tradition they have. It's super awesome and super fun for them. I very vividly remember my first few days in Romania. I was in the capital, Bucharest, when I got there, and then I took a train up to Oradea. And Oradea is a city that I lived in for about a year. And I remember taking this small train. I had never been on a train before, so going on this train and being in this little bunk bed with my person that I was going to be with was super awesome. It was a super cool experience. And then I got to Oradea, and there were all these cobblestone streets that I was carrying my luggage across, and I remember the smell. The smell was totally different from America, and it was gray skies that day, and we were around these apartment blocks. So just those first few moments, I was in total culture shock from being in America, growing up in a farming city, and coming to this pretty big town for me, something a couple 100,000 people, and seeing so many people having all these different sights and sounds. But it was incredible. I loved the train. I loved seeing the sights of Romania as we were going through Romania, because Oradea is on the Hungarian border on the west side. So it was so much fun getting to experience that and experiencing this new culture. So some of the differences for me were the living circumstances. So people lived a lot of times in blocks or apartments, as we would call them, and it was just totally different coming from growing up in a city where everybody lives in a house, everybody has their own house, to going into an apartment or a block was definitely different. Some of the other things like travel, we traveled a lot with trains and public transport, tramvai, the metro in Bucharest. So it was definitely different in terms of travel and living circumstances for sure. For safety in Romania, kind of thinking about safety and how safe it was inside the country, I felt like Romania was a very safe country. A lot of people were very nice. There were people that would say like, oh, like I'll throw fists with you, like I want to punch you, but really outside of that, it was very safe. Everyone was very nice. Even a lot of the, how we in English would call gypsy people, these gypsy people were super nice to me. I don't know if it is because I was American living there, but they were very nice. I had a great experience. My wife and I recently went back to Romania, and both her and I felt safe the whole time we were there. We never had any worries. So it was a very safe country. Obviously, there's a lot that can go on in any country, but in Romania, we felt completely safe at any moment. So an experience I had with, potentially some safety security in Romania was I was riding on the tramvai, and I had bought my ticket. So you have to buy a ticket each time you take public transport, or you can have an abonnement, which is like a monthly pass. And I had my ticket, and we were going into the center of town, and I didn't have my passport on me. And the controllers, who are the guys that kind of go around and check your tickets, they pulled me off, and this was my first week in Romanian. They started talking to me in Romanian, and I had no idea what was going on. Apparently what they were saying is, we're taking you to jail. You're going to jail because your ticket isn't valid unless you pay us 80 bucks. So the biggest safety concern for me the whole time I was there was people were trying to scam me out of some money. It wasn't really too bad, but those controllers really were scary that first week in Romania. I felt very safe my whole time there. One thing I love about Romania is the diversity that you get to see in terms of each city. So each city has a totally different feel. I lived in Constanța, which is a beach town right on the sea. Very beautiful, tons of beaches, awesome summertime place. I lived in Iași, which is in the Moldova part of Romania, and it was just totally different. Tons of hills and just totally different looking than it was in Constanța. Bucharest is its own beast. I loved Bucharest because of how many people were there, the public transport, the amount of things that you could do and really find in Bucharest were awesome. So many parks that were incredible. And then Oradea was a city I lived in for a year, so my favorite city for sure. And it was just totally different. It felt like you were back in Germany 100 years ago. It felt beautiful. It felt clean. It felt majestic. So I just loved seeing the diversity in between each city and each region in Romania. You know, you get the mountains, you get the sea, you get the flatlands. It was all incredible. So in Bucharest, you would definitely want to take the metro if you don't have a car. We drove a car around Romania and it was totally fine. Bucharest was great. It wasn't very hard to drive in, but definitely take the metro. It is an experience unlike any other. You get to sit across from people who, and I don't know if they just stared at us because we were American or they just stared at us for fun, but people were staring at us the whole time we were sitting, and it's just a totally different feel than driving your own car going from city to city. And you get to see these different stops. Tristor has a shawarma place right inside the metro, right inside the subway. And I loved that. Some of the places you need to see if you're in Bucharest, I would say Casa Poporului. You get to see the Parliament Palace. It's the second biggest building in the world, I think, maybe the first heaviest, biggest building in the world. So it's incredible. It is a massive site. If you're going in the summer, all the streets are awesome in the summer. They have these streets with fountains that are going off. They have the Arc de Triomphe, kind of like in France, but the Romanian version, which I loved it. They had a lot of fun stuff. They have a ton of beautiful parks that you can go see, basically parks everywhere. So I loved the parks in Romania. In Bucharest, they were probably the best parks because they were the biggest. One cool thing about Romania is there are chessboards all over in parks, and most of the time it's old people out there playing chess, but a lot of times it's the young people. But anytime you go to a park in summer, someone's out playing chess and moving those pieces around. It is fun to watch. I'm not very good at chess, so I think I appreciated it more seeing people out there playing. So it was a fun time. For Romanians, I would say you guys live in a beautiful country with incredible resources. Yes, things haven't always been great for you, but things are looking brighter in the future. I personally can see the future of Romania becoming better and better. And it starts with each and every one of you that are Romanians and each and every one of you that will ever go to Romania. It starts with you. Romania has a very bright future. Some of the smartest people I have ever met are from Romania or Moldova. Some of the nicest people and kindest people I've ever met are from Romania and Moldova. I can see the beauty, I can see the future of Romania being built up, and it starts with you. That's one thing I would like to communicate to the Romanians and the Romanian people, is you are incredible, I believe in you, you can do anything you put your mind to. Deci, o să încep cu o mică poezie, o rămâi cu mine, te iubesc atât de mult. Asta este spusă sau scrisă de Mihai Eminescu și, în punctul meu de vedere, inima mea întotdeauna va fi în România. Eu iubesc România și cultura și oameni acolo. De aia am învățat o limbă română. De aia am stat acolo, am locuit în România și Republica Moldova pentru 2 ani de zile. Pentru că iubesc România. Vreau să spun că sunteți minunați, sunteți harnici. Aveți o mare potențial să fiți orice vreți să fiți în lume. În punctul meu de vedere, puteți să fiți orice vreți în lume. Am cunoscut foarte mulți oameni care sunt plecați acum, dar fac ce vor și este o mare minun că ei fac ce vor. Și întotdeauna să fiți fericiți. E greu să fiți fericiți, dar dacă sunteți fericiți, viața va fi mult mai bine. Inevitabil va fi bine. și sper că într-o zi o să reajung acasă. Acasă în România, acasă în Oradea. Oradea este orașul meu, adică dacă puteam să zic că am un oraș în inima mea și vreau să locuiesc undeva, Oradea ar fi acest oraș. Deci, să fiți fericiți, sunteți minunați și să aveți bucurie.